Hello, and welcome to the Angry Ewok channel. Today, we'll be discussing a scenario that I designed to be played between two players using 3 to 500 point fleets, and even not even necessarily using the tournament list construction format, using whatever construction format you'd like. The intent here is to just put out something fun that you can do and to hopefully put it on the internet so that I can get people to play it so people can give me feedback on how we can refine this scenario, because I'd like to later incorporate this in a campaign or either in real life or digitally, but I want to play test the missions individually first so that I'm not putting out something that's unbalanced. So take this for what you will. You could just ignore this, you could play it and think it was terrible, but I think it'll be fun. I think it'd be a different way to play. I think you might enjoy it. So we'll get started. The context for this scenario is that the attacking faction has located a research and development station of the defending faction, and it's a secret research and development station that's tucked deep inside a nebula that's being used to basically mask its presence and protect it. The attacking faction wants to launch a strike into enemy territory to surgically remove this station and hopefully hamper their ability to develop whatever technology they're trying to create. And because it's deep within enemy territory, the attacker cannot simply occupy the station, go in and fight a protracted battle to take over the station. It has to be in and out and gone before the reactionary forces of the defender get there. And so, also because it's in a nebula tucked deep within that cloud of debris, the attacker is going to have to proceed into the nebula down a very tight corridor to actually access the station. The two fleets that are about to fight in this battle have very little, if any, intelligence about the other one. They don't know anything about their upgrades, their size, their fighter complement, any of that. So when you construct your lists, keep the lists secret from the opponent until, literally, as you deploy models onto the table should be the first time that the opponent is seeing the enemy force. You might want to tell them what faction, because that's pretty obvious. But the intent here is to create a lack of information that simulates what this fight would really be like. And this is optional. This is a little more of a hardcore mechanic. You might try it. I don't think this is probably best for beginners because their game knowledge is not as high. But you might play the game even once you deploy the ships with the upgrades upside down, so that the opponent knows that there are upgrades on the ship, but you don't know what they are until the first time that they're used. Again, playing into these fleets have no information about one another, and just making it different than a standard game, a little more narrative. This game is going to be played long ways because the situation is that there is a very tight, safe corridor through the nebula to the research station. So instead of going, normal deployment, we're going to be going long ways. So it's really not going to be a huge amount of, flanking going on anyway. But you want to be able to keep as much information back as possible to make this kind of a blind engagement. Starting with the second player, you will then deploy 7 obstacles. It'll be the standard set of obstacles, your asteroids, your debris clouds, and we're going to add 2 dust clouds to this. And all obstacles need to be deployed in the middle section of the blockade run deployment. So what I mean by that is you need to take 2 range rulers in from each direction, from the short edges. Those vertical lines that we're creating are the edges, are the boundaries, and then you need to deploy all of the obstacles that I just talked about inside that middle band, like you see here. The obstacles need to be distance 1 from each other. They need to be distance 1 from the long edges, so you can't just cram them all the way up against the board edge, but they can definitely be a lot closer than normal to the long edge. The idea here is that this is a nebula and that there's a lot of debris here. Outside of the nebula, the direction the attacker is coming from, not so much. And then the area immediately around the station has been carefully secured, and the obstacles have been moved out of there. Now that all the obstacles have been placed in the middle, the second player will pick one short edge or the other to be his short edge, and then he will deploy his station on that edge. And you can see here we've got these rulers out. The station needs to be at least distance 5 from both of the long edges so that we push it towards the middle, and the station must be deployed distance 5 from the short edge. It's wholly within distance 5 of the short edge, but you cannot bring it any closer to the short edge than that. Basically, I want it all the way pushed up against the end of the stick, so that you're not hiding that station deep in the short edge, because that's just going to make it really hard to get to. Now that the station is placed, the last part of setup is that all of the non-station obstacles will need to be numbered. You'll number them 1 through 7, and then on a sheet of paper the defender will then list out, select 2 of those obstacles, and 2 of those obstacles are going to receive some sort of defensive upgrade, and we'll go through exactly what those defensive upgrades are and how they work in a second. But those 2 need to be written down on a piece of paper indicating what they are and what obstacles they are assigned to. These are kept secret from the attacker. These are only revealed when the defender either uses the upgrade for its effect, or the attacker ends the movement of a squadron or a ship within distance 1 of that obstacle. If a squadron is placed within distance 1 of a dust cloud that has a turbo laser battery installed on it, they need to reveal that at that time. If an attacker flotilla ends its movement within distance 1 of an asteroid that has a ship hiding behind it, they need to reveal that immediately. So the first and most straightforward defensive upgrade you can put on an obstacle is a turbo laser nest. And turbo laser nests, because they're an installation that is put onto an obstacle, cannot be placed on dust clouds because there's really nothing solid to put it on. So you can put a turbo laser nest on anything that's not a dust cloud, and basically what it is just it functions kind of like an armed station in Carillion conflict. It fires 3 red dice at the end of the ship phase at any ship in range, and it resolves that shot as if it were an armed station. Once again, you're going to measure range from the closest point of the obstacle to the target. You're going to measure line of sight again from the closest point of the obstacle to the yellow dot of the ship. It'll roll 3 red dice, no modifications on it. This remains concealed until it's revealed by the attacker, or when the defender wants to utilize it, he can reveal it at the end of the ship phase once all ships have gone, and he can fire. This thing is not unkillable. It has 4 hull points. It can be targeted just like you would target a ship. You can bomb it with squadrons. You can shoot it with a ship. It's treated as a ship with 4 hull points and a single hull facing. You do those 4 hull points and the turbo laser battery is destroyed. The obstacle itself is not destroyed. It's just the installation on the obstacle has been eliminated. Obstacles can also be upgraded with proximity charges. These are smart charges. They only explode when enemy ships approach to within distance 1. They don't explode on friendlies because they've been programmed to recognize friend from foe. Basically, you select the obstacle that you're going to put these charges on. Enemy ships ending their movement within distance 1 of the obstacle will set off these charges. And instead of rolling the 2 dice that you would normally roll for proximity mines, we're going to roll 3 dice because it's an entire obstacle rig to blow. If this proximity mine goes off, the obstacle will be removed from play because it incinerates the entire obstacle. But you'll resolve this just like you would resolve a proximity mine. You're going to roll dice, blue dice, and then you're going to do hull damage, not shield damage. You can go straight through the hull, but it's slightly more powerful than a normal proximity mine and removes the obstacle from play. Any obstacle can be used to hide power down squadrons of the defender's fleet. The defender would select 2 squadrons to set aside for this upgrade, and those squadrons are essentially floating lifeless near that asteroid or debris cloud or whatever. And then at any time during the game, the defender can reveal them and place them within distance 1 of the obstacle unactivated. If they are revealed by the attacker placing a squadron or a ship within distance 1 of the obstacle, they are again placed at within distance 1 of the obstacle unactivated. This is useful mostly for being able to put slow moving squadrons forward so they can engage, or maybe putting interceptors that the enemy doesn't know about or hadn't planned for forward so they can spring out and attack. As a defensive upgrade option, the defender can place one of his small base Command 1 ships in reserve and hide it on an obstacle. This ship is powered down, so it's running at speed 0. It's not placed on the board at deployment. It simply is noted on the list of obstacles, which obstacle it is, and then at any point during the ship phase, the defender can reveal the ship and then resolve its activation. So for example, your first activation of the turn can be revealing a hard cell, this hard cell we've got here behind this debris cloud, dust cloud, and then activating with it. The ship comes in at speed 0 because it's powered down, but usually if you get to activate it, you can do your nav command, you can speed up, and you can get out of there. You can reveal it and wait and not activate it until potentially you send it a concentrate, a navigate token if you wanted to, but you can reveal that ship at any time during the ship phase. If it is revealed by the attacker, i.e. they place a squadron or they place a ship within distance 1 of the obstacle, the ship is again immediately placed. It must, part of it at least, must touch the obstacle and is deployed at speed 0. This is the primary reason why we don't divulge lists at the beginning, so that the absence of this ship in the enemy fleet doesn't immediately clue him off that, well, there's got to be a ship somewhere hidden, because that would kind of spoil the whole point of it. Also, this ship is not going to be counted for the purpose of determining how many pass tokens the fleet's the person with fewer activations gets. Again, because if a mindful attacking player would be able to determine, yeah, there's got to be a ship hidden somewhere because I'm getting one fewer pass token than I'm getting one more pass token than I think I'm entitled to. So when determining how many pass tokens are handed out, do not count this ship in determining that number, otherwise you'll spoil the surprise of the ship being hidden. Once all the obstacle upgrades have been listed on that sheet of paper, the defender then deploys. The defender can deploy anywhere in the red box, and you'll see that the defender has chosen the short edge near the station, and he can deploy his ships anywhere inside that open area to the right of the debris cloud or inside the debris. But he deploys all ships and all squadrons before the attacker deploys anything, so you don't really know where he's coming from, because again, you don't know he's coming. When deploying squadrons can be deployed within distance 1 to 2 of ships, just like they normally can be, even ships that are in the middle section of the board for the defender. In addition, squadrons can be deployed inside the hangar bays of your ships equal to their squadron value. And the most pressing reason for this is so that the attacker can use slow-moving squadrons if he wants to. Because if he has to use arcs or B-wings, something like that, they're probably not going to make it into the fight until so late that it's not going to matter. So this is going to function similar to a rapid launch bay, but not as effectively because you didn't pay for those. The way this works is you can place squadrons up to the ship's squadron value on the ship's card, and then they can be deployed at the beginning of any squadron phase within distance 1 of the ship activated. If the attacker has squadrons that he wants to deploy, the defender has squadrons he wants to deploy, the attacker would deploy first, then the defender, like you would normally resolve those things. This is mostly used, again, as a way of getting those slow-moving squadrons into the fight, because I don't want the attacker to be penalized for taking slow-moving squadrons, expecting the game to be much closer together than it traditionally is. He needs a way of getting those squadrons over there. For the attacker's deployment, once the defender is done, the attacker can deploy all his ships and squadrons. They need to be deployed within distance 5 of the short edge that they have chosen. Like you see here, squadrons can be deployed beyond this, like normal, within distance 1 to 2, or they can be deployed on the card. After the attacker deploys, you pretty much play a normal game of Armada. The station is worth 100 points to the attacker if it is destroyed. The defender gets 100 points if the station survives, and it's just a regular old 10 hull point station like you would use in Station Assault, and it's resolved the exact same way, measuring range and line of sight from the closest point on the card of the station to the attacking ship or squadron. In addition, because this is a nebula, it's very difficult to see targets that are far away, and as a way of preventing an onager from basically trivializing the scenario, we're going to use a rule that prevents extreme range shooting unless there's a spotter ship within range, long range of the target. So what I mean by that is if an onager wants to target an enemy ship or a station, he can't shoot that. He cannot shoot out beyond long range, even with his ignition weapon, unless there is a friendly ship that is within long range of the target. This is not super hard to set up, but what this prevents is, like double onager coming in and nuking the station from effectively mid-board. They would have to have at least some kind of ship to go in and spot the station so that they can fire. And so then maybe it becomes more important for the attacker to knock out the spotter ships than actually fighting the onager. This is as light a touch as I can possibly do, because in my head the way to break this scenario most easily is to just bring a lot of onagers. And I wanted to kind of curtail that up front. And this is kind of what the point of the playtesting situation is, to see, if there are ways to break this to prevent feel bad situations, or situations where the fleets that are brought basically trivialize the scenario. And so I ask that you would, give me your feedback on this. Try it. Hope you enjoy it. This is meant to be fun. This is meant to be something to kind of give the community a different way to play, and have a good time with it, guys.